Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of the Joining Me Today podcast. See, I didn't go 1, 2, 3, 4. I skipped a finger. That was funny. Can you see that I didn't plan a joke for this episode? But anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Joining Me Today podcast. But today is not a regular episode because today we have got the 20th episode of the show. Now you might be wondering, why is that so special? It's only the number 20. You know, that's nothing like too significant and stuff, nothing to maybe call sort of special. This episode is special for a more of a specific reason for this podcast. Before I started this podcast, I had this goal in mind of if I at least got to 20 episodes, I knew that I could be like, I was really happy with this project, I really gave it a go, and it felt like a proper show. I've had so many creative ideas that have broke down over time. I finally wanted to have something where I was like, I kept going and going, I did so many episodes of it, I could walk away and go, yep, I'm really, really happy with how long it lasted and the project. And it happened with this project. I was worried it might not happen, but here we are, it's actually happened. And we've got a bit of a special guest for the episode today, for that reason and stuff. We'll get and sort of into that interview in a sec. But before we get started, we've got to do the song recommendation. It's the JMT podcast, you know, it's a staple of the show. And because it's a special edition episode, I'm going to suggest a song that's not just a song I've liked recently or something. It's going to be something a bit more special. It's going to be a song that I'd consider one of my best songs of all time. And today, that song that I'm going to have alongside sort of the song that I had in my first episode in terms of like the epitome of me loving music, you could say, I'm going to suggest Yonica Seize the Power. Fantastic alt-rock, indie rock song. Yonica are such a fantastic band. They actually liked a tweet of mine a couple weeks ago, like a week ago, because I had them in my music awards as one of the nominees, and that was such a cool moment. This is such a brilliant song about empowerment and female empowerment. It was a brilliant single from their second album and stuff like that, and it's just got this massive fanfare to it that's excellent and stuff, and the structure of the song and the beat, and when the chorus comes in, that drop is fantastic, and it's done in a rock way. Having beat that drops and beats like that in a rock song, fantastic. So you guys should definitely go check it out. But anyway, now it's time for the special part of this episode. I'm so excited to welcome him back on the show. We had him on episode 1. He helped kickstart it all. Welcome back to the show, Chad Bartlett, aka TheycallmeHatGuy. How you doing, sir?
I'm still alive. I've made it. I've survived into 2024. We're here. It's the future, man. We made it.
It's been because the last interview, like when we spoke together, it was like mid 2022. So it's been even more than like you could even say a year. It's been like so long. Like, how you been in all that time?
You know, I've been good. Since then, we have become, friends, and I've spoken to you a couple of times since then, which has been really cool. I've got to see your podcast grow a little bit, and, it's fun. It's fun to see that. And I've been doing well. You know, like I said, I'm still here. We have a new animal in the house. This is Sushi, who will not... he will have it no other way than to be a special guest also. He's going to be rocking with us today, it seems. But I'm blessed beyond anything I deserve. And I am excited to get to hang out with you for a little bit today as well.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on and stuff. You've actually had and stuff. You've got a new background now. I'm seeing a few more things because
we moved since our first interview, and it's a lot of the same stuff, but there's not as much space here. So a lot of my stuff is just boxed up in a closet. My CRT collection has expanded. I went from having one CRT television to having 5 of them, which is a bit eccentric, but they don't make them anymore, and I don't think they're ever going to make them again. So it's good to have those. Sushi, can you not talk over me? Can I speak my part? He's very rude. He doesn't have good manners when it comes to conversations and stuff. So you got to give this guy a break. But he sure is weird looking and cute, right?
It's quite funny when I had the episode with Nick and stuff. I know he's cat and stuff, and Vega was coming in a few times as well. Right at the beginning,
and Vega is a big old chunk of a cat. Sushi's kind of tiny, but Vega's big. I love Nick. What a great guy. And I've been over the years trying to convince him to put out his own content and his own material outside of just doing reactions and stuff. And I mean, he has his own reasons not for doing that, but it sure is a shame because he's one of my favorite people to be around. He's a great guy.
Yeah, and I really like and stuff like the dynamic between Nate and Nick. It works so well.
Oh yeah,
and I think you need that for that sort of reaction. It's like you and Nikki, you guys and stuff work so well together, and I think people don't realize that sometimes you need that chemistry, and even on this podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Chemistry, don't you?
And the same with whenever I do reactions with Nate too. I've known Nate for so long, since we were children. So. That chemistry is key with reactions. Sometimes I do solo reactions, and that's all fine and well and good, and I still get to bounce off of the energy that I get and the feedback that I get in the comments from people who are viewing the videos and people who are involved in my community, which I also see as friends. You've been in the live streams, you know how it goes. It's pretty loose, and we just chill, and that's fun. But there is a special magic to when you're in the same room with somebody, you have a good chemistry with them, or just in everyday life. And then for reactions, that's all about being sincere and authentic, if you're doing it right. And that I'm glad that translates to people who are watching the videos, because it feels that way, and I think that it's going to come across to other people that way. So I'm glad to have that confirmed through you that you get that.
Yeah, and it's and we even said in our first episode, funny enough, about how many reaction channels really are. It's bottom of the barrel content, and it's quite funny, since our chat, that's become a very prominent discussion due to a certain Sssniperwolf out there.
Oh my God, dude.
What's your opinion on that stuff? Because I don't think I've heard you say about it.
There's a lot of different ways I can go with this response. I think Sssniperwolf would be popular in almost any capacity that allows for people to see her face and about this much of her body.
Yeah.
Right? Is she the worst looking human being on planet Earth? Absolutely not. But that's not reflected in our hearts, is it? That's not necessarily skin deep is a thing, and I feel like, to be a conventionally attractive female helps. Being conventionally attractive in anything helps. And I don't think that her success necessarily depends on stealing other people's content. I think that is something that is going to help, of course, because it takes a huge burden of work off of your shoulders. But the combination of the virality of the stuff that she's doing, the interest that's already there, people are already going to be seeking out reactions who like it, and the fact that you see a thumbnail and it's just like, oh, well, there's this conventionally attractive female that's watching this stuff, and I mean that's an appeal that you can't argue with. It's evident because the content is trash, right? But if you look at the music that is the most successful, the television shows that are the most successful, hell, if you want to get way crazy about it, the politicians that are the most successful are not the best quality. The best quality is not what wins. It's how marketable is this? How strong can it connect to an audience in a way that the ape brain inside of us just reacts to, right? And it's just like when you're Sushi trying to jump on one of my TVs just now. That didn't work out for you, did it, pal? Yeah, that was like a Looney Tunes cartoon just happened in real life. He jumped and just slid off the face of the television in slow
Chucked his
motion. That was
legs in
funny.
the air before falling.
Yeah, the noise that you heard was him scraping the glass trying to gain traction, which was not happening. But luckily, he's a cat, which means he's perfectly fine. Because they have superhuman abilities or just superpowers. I don't know what you want to call it. But anyway, everything that would attract you to eat a whole bag of sweets and sugar is going to attract you to that kind of trash content. And that is not Sniper Wolf's fault. Her utilizing the assets that she has to be popular, it just is what it is. A fool's born every day, and people are going to flock to that because that's just the nature of the beast. What bothers me is when you purposefully go out of your way to rip all credibility from the people who are creating the content that you react to.
And the maddest thing, she doesn't even have her own reactions. She literally has bullet points set for her for how to react. So you're stealing content and you can't even come up with your own reactions. You literally are a human sitting in a chair.
Yeah, but that just makes you kind of like inauthentic and dumb, right? So you can dunk on somebody for that. You can talk about that, but is there anything inherently nefarious about that? I don't think so. It's just not my modus operandi. And people can be whatever, but it's when it's the real core issue in reactions is, are you stealing content or are you not? Is it transformative or is it not? Right?
Yeah.
That's where the issue comes up. So when you're blatantly blurring out and cutting out like watermarks and things that give credibility and give the right recognition for the people who you're reacting to's content, that's up. I try and tag the channel that put the reaction or the meme compilation out, and I also put the original video in the description of the reactions that I do, so that if you want to seek these people out and watch their other stuff or just know where it came from. So if you want to make a reaction video, you can do it. Or if you just want to subscribe to their channel, you can do it. Because that's the ebb and flow of YouTube, right? It's not just a video place. It is a social platform. It has its own ecosystem. And the only way that we all eat, live, and breathe on the platform is if we let it be its own individual thing and help each other out and keep the creativity flowing, right? Keep the conversation going.
As like sort of a feminist and stuff like that, which I know is considered a naughty term now by certain people out there, but sort of for me, I think what hurts me the most is that she's considered by YouTube, her and Lele Pons, another terrible like sort of creator, they're seen as like, this is the epitome of female YouTube. And it's like, what an insult to females on the platform who have put in work day in and day out, basically being told, oh, well, you're not attractive enough and we like these constantly dumb things that go against the guidelines. Well, you know,
right.
You lost a genetic lottery, so that's not our fault. And I just think that's so upsetting. But anyway, so we've had the philosophical discussions and all that. It's quite funny. I'm actually wearing a Green Day top at the moment, so they're a little bit philosophical.
Oh, okay.
Album.
Yeah, so, they just put a new album out. Have you listened to
Saviors? I haven't actually. No, I feel bad. I think it's called Saviors. I haven't listened to it yet.
I think so. I haven't listened to Green Day since. Well, I'm not going to say I haven't listened to them since. I haven't been interested in their music since Nimrod. After Nimrod, I've quit listening to Green Day. It's not that I have anything against them personally or their message. I just didn't like the way that their music sounded. Same with Blink-182's self-titled album. When in the mid 2000s, when pop punk kind of went emo and became like more depressing and like kind of lower toned and drony and just sad, I was out. Because to me, pop punk and punk rock music was about taking a situation, injecting youthful rebellion into it, throwing middle fingers in the air, and just saying, whatever, I'm an idiot. I don't give I don't care. You know, like I'm going to go skateboard, I'm going to hang out with my friends, and we're going to laugh about fart jokes and get over it.
Mm. It's
You
quite
know?
interesting because I wanted to ask you about this because I'm more interested in the more kind of emo part of pop punk and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
You
Sure.
It was a lot of that stuff you never really the MCR and Panic at the Disco when that all stuff come out, was that just never really your thing? Like,
Because I'm like, so I'm 34. I'll be 35 in June, right? So when I was growing up, and my influences for punk rock music, it was through skateboarding. It was through people skating on the streets, and there was kind of this infusion of like pop punk and hardcore and rap music and metal and stuff like that that was like all about things that were difficult, but it was about fighting as hard as you can to not let those difficult things bring you to a low place. We're going to rise above, Black Flag, you know, and like get over it. And not only get over it, that negativity is going to charge us up so that we thrive off of it rather than down, 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 you know, the Blink 182 emo stuff. It was like if you look at the album before their self-titled album, there's all these funny songs, there's some kind of sad ones, and it's like okay to sprinkle that in, I think, because it's true. Before you get that attitude of like, I'm going to kick this thing's butt, I'm in this place that's not good, but instead of letting that drown me out, you have to feel that darkness first. But that there has to be the comeback kid. There has to be the rally cry to lift up out of that. But if the whole album is just like, I'm tapping out, this girl left me, so this is it. It's like, damn, you're not even going to talk about how beautiful the relationship was that brought you to that point before it came crashing down. Like, you're not going to talk about how your friend showed up with a 6-pack of beer and y'all got over it together because that's what friends do. You know what I mean? Like, and that culture was connected to me in a way that it felt like a betrayal when it flipped to that. Because through the hard times and through a lot of difficult things that I went through as a child, having that to latch onto was what kept me from going under. And now these same people are like, nah, this is where we live. We're under. So it was just a big betrayal that happened at that point with like emo and punk rock, like the emo or the punk rock bands that evolved into emo. But I did gain an appreciation for it later in life. There's just certain stuff that I like and that I don't like. And Green Day's emo stuff, I don't like.
It's quite funny because, like, it's sort of seeing the different perspective because I kind of really connected with, or because of sort of my age, whatever. Like, for me, I listened to a lot of that stuff when it was like 10 years sort of going on. So when I was at sort of 16, 17, like, this was 2018, 2019. Yeah. So for me, it was kind of like, I kind of got into that sort of music and stuff like that because it was like, oh, like this is speaking to a lot of the sort of more darker sort of emotion sort of I'm feeling, a lot of what I was sort of going through, you know, stuff like Paramore, Panic and stuff. 21 Pilots kind of, I know it's a bit more newer, but it kind of became part of that same circle and stuff. So for me it was kind of, I like that kind of thing of, let's be honest, let's kind of sort of look at life. And I saw it as a little bit kind of, because of what British culture's like. British culture's a lot more, let's be honest, you know, we can't be asked to put up much of a fight and sort of thing. And it kind of, that's kind of where I connected sort of with it. It was just his reality, it's bleak, but sort of here we go. And I think that's kind of, I think sometimes music, it can depend on when you grew up, where you live, and it's just kind of a mindset thing.
You got to give your home country a little bit more respect on being able to fight back. I have a lot of respect for the Brits in their grit and determination to be who they are, regardless of what anybody else thinks about it. That's pretty awesome. And I also think that you know, from an artistic place, especially in rock and roll. The British have it would not be the same without the British. So, I mean, the Beatles made such a huge impact. I'm not the biggest fan, but I do respect what they've done for music. But I didn't like My Chemical Romance. I did not like Panic at the Disco. What was the down, down, and around, sugar, we're going down, swinging.
Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, I don't like Fall Out Boy. I did like other bands that were considered emo, and they are emo, but they weren't like punk rock bands first.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like Taking Back Sunday, I was cool with them. That was fine by me. I don't know if you ever checked them out.
I've heard of them, yeah, actually.
And then you've got bands like Say Anything. I don't know if you know them, but they're incredible. Yeah. They have that one song, and I walk through hell for you. Na 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 na. Like check them out. You would probably like them. And then people whose stuff was like more depressing, I guess is a way to put it, like Ryan Adams, the singer-songwriter Ryan Adams, and Jeff Buckley. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And, a lot of his stuff was very grungy, kind of early emo stuff. The Cure, obviously. Not a big fan of Morrissey's political beliefs, but I did enjoy the Smiths, There are stuff, like even when Tom DeLonge formed Boxcar Racer with Travis Barker, right? I'm fine with that. Because it's another band. I'm not going in thinking I'm going to hear Blink-182. Right? So I feel like if bands make a name for themselves and they've had like 4 or 5 albums and they connect with their audience and they've got this relationship built, it's kind of weird to be like, okay, well, we're trying new stuff. It's like, okay, make a new band, brand it as something else. It's not what I'm expecting. If you open up, if you like, a lot of people like chocolate milk, right? I know I'm a fan of it. If I open up a Coca-Cola and I start drinking it and chocolate milk hits my mouth, I'm like, whoa! Not because I don't like it, but because I was thinking of something completely different and looking forward to an experience that turned out to be something completely different. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you brand what you're doing appropriately and have people, if they're going to pick something up off the shelf and pay money for it, why do you want to give them something completely different than what's advertised?
Have you listened to any of the more kind of new age pop punk stuff? I know there's been a lot of revivals in recent years. Trying to think of some examples off the top of my head. I don't know, they probably won't count, but bands like All Time Low, people like, have you ever heard of any of the new stuff that's come out? Kept up with the scene at all?
What I don't like about it is the fact that it took all of the overproduced bubblegum synthesizer, like all of the stuff about the evolution of pop punk that I didn't like, and none of the heart and soul of it.
Yeah, that kind of,
I don't like
that
it.
Rebelliousness, kind of that skater kid attitude kind of thing, isn't it?
Totally gone. Totally gone. And more of the generic cell phone commercial music,
yeah,
which is piss to me. Like I don't know.
It kind of turned into a bit like alt rock, a bit not Imagine Dragons necessarily, but it's
just like
generic, innit?
Just like country music nowadays. Nashville dude bros singing a country style over top of a hip hop trap beat. It's like, what is that?
I saw
ooh,
they're getting really popular now, some of them, over here. Is it Morgan Wallen's one of them, and some other people? It's the most generic, It's I listen to it and it's just like I don't come from like obviously like sort of the more south of the USA. So for
I
me,
do. I do. I live about an hour and a half away from where Morgan Wallen is from,
it's so
and it's
laborious.
gross. It's so gross. It's so disgusting. I mean, it's just like the gutter oil of society. I mean, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. And I hate to be this way because I don't consider myself a genius.
Hmm.
Most people are dumb as all hell. Most people are downright stupid. So the mental gymnastics they would have to do to appreciate good artistry is not worth their time.
Hmm.
So whatever is told to them is good and looped over and over and over and over and over again, they will connect to it.
We've had a bit of a conversation. We spoke about all that sort of different things, had a
Sure.
bit of a catch up. But now it's the most important part of this episode. It's where I get to receive loads of praise. That's what I love. I need it for my ego. My ego needs to be catered to. But all jokes aside and stuff, I'd like to really sort of talk to you and stuff like that about, obviously, when you first appeared on the podcast. That's kind of what this episode's kind of all about in terms of, sort of having, an old guest on, sort of the first guest I had on the show and all that. Sort of recount what it was like when I first sent you that DM to be like, hey man, I'd love to have you on the show.
I thought it was neat that you were trying to do your own thing and you had kind of an idea of, I want to try this out. I know it's a risk. I know it's not going to be easy, but I want to give it a shot. So I respected that. And also, I think it's a cool way to get to know other people and make new friends. And also, potentially, who knows, expand my audience, make a new connection and create something fun. And I think that I saw like a real passion for what you were trying to get into in the way you were explaining what you wanted to do, but also that you were really nervous about it, but you were doing it anyway, which is like really what bravery is, right? Bravery is when you're scared to do something, but you do it anyway because, you're able to push through that fear and do something and accomplish a goal. So I found that to be really cool. And I was like, I'm going, because you were very honest with me. That's something that I've admired about you since we first met, since you reached out to me, is that you note the fact that this is a little bit scary. You're doing something new. You're not sure how it's going to go, but let's do it.
I basically found out that I've never actually said about this. I found out that the first time I was on Reddit, before I even had a Reddit account, the first time I was on Reddit was basically saying I was rubbish at doing a podcast.
Oh, wow.
I literally got hate comments on Reddit before I'd even gone on there, and I found them and I was like, oh, fun.
Right. Yeah.
So, but obviously I'm here now, I'm persevering, speaking to fantastic individuals like yourself and all that. And sort of like,
Well, that's the thing about sucking though, right? You have to get through this phase. Nobody jumps into anything and they're awesome at it. If you look back at some of the greatest of all time in many different professions, one of my favorite examples of this is Michael Jordan, who was cut from the basketball team when he was in junior varsity. Michael Jordan was told that he wasn't good enough to play.
wow.
Michael Jordan, okay? And we all know how that turned out. And it's because he didn't give up. He could have been like, well, they said I couldn't cut it. I couldn't play on the varsity squad. I'm done, but instead, he's now a billionaire because of his skill. And that is what it's all about. If you listen to all of these different super successful people, many have said it's the people who don't give up. It may take you a few months, it may take you decades, but the only way that you're going to win is if you show up. If you're not even there, you can't get picked. Your time will not come if you're not there. So, yeah, it's good. Like those hate comments and whatever just mean you're on the right track. because if you weren't putting anything out, then nobody would say anything about it. And that's just, I mean, some people consider if you're not to 20,000 subscribers in 6 months and doing all this, all these views and stuff, then you're just shouting into the void. But what you're doing is you're honing your craft. You got to learn and get better every single time. Enjoy what you're doing, keep your passion for it, and just grow. So you can look back at those hate comments and be like, wow, 6 years ago, 12 years ago, this person says this, but now this is my life. I'm living this life and I'm getting paid and I'm doing well. It takes time. Everybody's on their own schedule, on their own program.
And I really appreciate that. We're getting quite wholesome today and stuff, and it's good things about me, so I always like hearing that. But what actually really inspired me, though, was in our first episode, you said it yourself that you persevered sort of early on. You said, like, you were like, I had to do this. Like, you just knew that it was during, I think, COVID. You were like, I've got to, like, do this. And look where you are now.
Yeah, it drove me crazy, dude. It drove me crazy. Like, I was in a 9-to-5 job, and I just looked back like, oh my God. Like, I looked back recently at one of my old pay stubs. I was like, holy. Since then, I've gotten 2 master's degrees. I've built this YouTube channel. I've built a pro wrestling organization. My band has finally got our first vinyl press, which is really cool. Just all of the that I wanted to do has happened. Like, so many things that if I would have just said, and I worked around people like this. In the place where I was working, there were people like, eat and smile about it and keep grinding, and eventually I'll get a 50-cent raise or like a little bit of a raise on my paycheck in this same system, in this same situation that's just like mind-numbing robotic work. And that was all they did with their life. They did that all day, went home and were miserable because they had to come back tomorrow and punch the clock again. That is not life. Human beings were not meant to be that way. We have a wealth of experience in this world. And if there's something screaming inside of you, I want this, don't turn that down. Don't downplay and count yourself out and just, you are robbing yourself of your life if you let what you do to keep a roof over your head keep you from living. You're not living. And I knew that I wasn't living. I was surviving. And that's right? Because there are people in levels of poverty that follow their passions that you and I could never imagine. And if they can do it, why can't we? And if anybody can succeed out there the way that we see all of these people who are massively successful, you can too. Does it mean that you're going to be a billionaire, a millionaire, or anything like that? No. But wealth is not your bank account. You can be a rich man without a huge bank account. If you can live your dreams and provide for yourself at the same time, even at a minimal level, maybe you have to have another revenue stream also, which is a job that you don't really care for, but it still allows you to follow your passions. At least you're doing that. There are so many people who are so beat down by their work. By the time that they're done, they go home, they sit on the couch, they eat dinner, watch television, and pass the out, and they don't ever hope for anything else.
I see that so much myself.
That's not it, man.
I see that so much myself and stuff like that with people around me, and it's quite funny that I've spoke to people and stuff like that sort of around me, and I'm like, because I've always been like so creatively minded. I've always been like, I don't just want life as it is. I feel like I know I can do more. I don't just want to do my job. I want to do other creative things, and I find it so interesting and stuff like that when I speak to other people and stuff like around me, and I'm like, is this anything you've ever been interested in, trying to sort of do a second sort of job, maybe start your own little business or do a little project, like an art project or something? And most people are like, I don't know, it's not really my thing. And I just find it sad how many people are just so like kind of complacent. They're just like this is my life and that's it, and it just shocks me how many people don't have that like drive. You know what I mean?
Well, now I've I have bipolar disorder, right? Bipolar type 2, which makes me over ambitious, and I will load my plate to the point where it's unhealthy how much I try to do and believe I can do. And I never can do it all. I mean, I've tried several different podcasts, creating gaming content, live streaming, reactions, original content, reviewing movies, video games, even being involved in films with my homie Nate from Renegade Media Group. You're doing this wrestling organization. And when I went in to train to be a pro wrestler, I didn't go and take a couple of courses and then call it a day. I went and helped set up the entire production program at a school, took training for 2 years straight with a WWE Hall of Famer, did a live streaming 2-hour wrestling broadcast every Sunday for like years. So I'm talking about, and I had to drive from my house 2 hours one way to get there 3 times a week. Worked a job, was in school, had a band still at the same time. We're talking about just punishing myself. But I had to. As a person with bipolar disorder, it is a non-stop. It's depressive, manic depressive disorder, right? So I'm at the top of the top with my energy and my ideas and my just racing thoughts and everything. And I'm also an hour or 2 hours later in the gutter, the worst, most depressed person who can't. So I've had to learn to manage and function as a human being while my emotions and thoughts and things are going on that yo-yo, right? So one of the ways that I found that is pursuing my passions as hard as I can. Well, I was still doing that while working this soul-crushing job, right? But I knew that this soul-crushing job was not going to be my way to keep a roof over my head. Because if so, then I would have lost my ability to also pursue my passions. That was unacceptable. But I didn't know how. Everything was too scary. It was too much of a risk to not have that guaranteed paycheck. No matter how small it was something that I could rely on. When COVID came, my job was like, hey, we're going to have to cut hours here. And that wasn't going to keep the roof over my head. So I kind of got the push. But I was in that mode of, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. The COVID thing was said, guess what? You got no choice.
It's quite funny because even though like you'd said a lot of that and stuff in the original episode, it's still hitting me here in my heart and stuff like that because it's such a inspirational story and all that. But I've got to ask this, sort of bit of a tone shift. What's the story behind the name? Or They Call Me Hat Guy?
So there's 2 things that happen, okay? As you know, I've been friends with Nathan Hamilton from Renegade Media Group, Renegade React, since we were early teenagers, maybe even like 12, 13, around middle school was when I met Nate. And he was one of the early reaction channels on YouTube. His has been around forever, like a decade now. And I didn't understand it. I was like, just to be honest, I thought it was kind of stupid. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, who gives a what you think about this stuff? Like, I just had no clue. And he kind of showed me the ropes. He was like, it's more of an interaction with the people than it is like, oh, I'm just going to watch this. It's more like a discussion and like, and you adding your personal take on things. People want to get to know you also. And it's not just like the Sssniperwolf, right? He showed me the right way to do it and explained to me how to do it. So I've gotten a lot better about this, but I used to be super crude, obnoxious, opinionated, and pissed off. I used to be a lot more angry of a person than I am now, which with age, I've toned my down a lot. But this was like 2018, 2019-ish. It's whenever the live action Mulan was supposed to come out, or when they were announcing it. And there was a trailer, and he wanted me to react to the Mulan trailer with him and Nick. And I was like, sure, whatever. And they started showing it, and I was like, what the to me, Mulan is, I'll make a man out of you. Like this chick that's like, I'm a badass also. And there's, Eddie Murphy as Mushu, the dragon. And that was part of my childhood. I remember Mulan coming out, and I thought it was pretty cool, And turns out a lot of people were like, the old Mulan was so racist, and it had all these tropes, and I'll make a man out of you. They took that song out of the movie. They took all the mysticism and the dragon and stuff out. Mushu was not in, it turned into, let's try to make a historically accurate live action movie out of mythology. Okay. So when I saw it, I was like, man, this just looks like some knockoff version of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like, I complained about all of the fantasy aspects being removed, and like, We'll Make a Man Out of You is a song about bravery and courage and fighting against oppression, and all that stuff is not the trait of a man. A woman can do that too. So what's the problem? The verbiage, if you take it out of context, could be offensive, but in context, which is what truly matters, the context matters, it is an empowering song for women. So what is the problem with this? Like, why are you taking this stuff out that's actually, like, when Disney gets it right, not very often, why would you remove that? And so I was just complaining about these things. And people in the comments were dragging me, just like, this angry hat guy, and he's saying all this stuff, and this is a myth from China that, they're trying to be more accurate to the source material and all this stuff. And I'm like, it is. Don't get mad at me. I didn't know any of this stuff. I'm an Appalachian hillbilly from Southwest Virginia. How am I supposed to know about Chinese mythology? Like, the only exposure I've had to this was through the wildly popular, by the way, Disney movie that came out when I was a kid. I don't study this stuff, and so that's one of the angry hat guy comments. The other one was, we were doing a reaction to a Mini Lad video where he was talking about inappropriate cartoons from when we were kids. And Johnny Bravo came up, and he was just like, oh, Johnny Bravo, over-sexualized women, and he was a scumbag, and he was predatory, and all this stuff. And I was like, hold up. Are we really talking about Johnny Bravo right now? Because I don't think I ever remember a single person being like, damn, the way he lays it on thick, he's got some major riz. I want to be like Johnny Bravo. Like, this is a great example of how you should treat women. And he was the butt of the joke. Him being an idiot was the funny part. It's because obviously that doesn't work with women. Obviously you're being a scumbag. Obviously you're a jerk when you do that to women. It's not like he's a hero of any kind. And anybody who goes in that hard on something as trivial as Johnny Bravo, they're probably the ones who are really the scumbags, really the predators. I said all of this years before anything came out about him.
You know what I think with that Mini Lad thing and stuff? I think he was just angry and stuff like that because I think he saw too much of himself in him. So, like, it was kind of him trying to deflect and stuff, let's just say.
I mean, if you look at the messages that he sent to those girls and stuff, it's, hey, pretty mama. He did the exact same as Johnny Bravo in those messages.
And he blamed
exact same.
He's blamed it on his mental health as well. Like, I still
sure, dude. So could Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy could have been like, "It's my mental health." That don't mean that you didn't perpetrate the crime. Okay, that's just like, okay. Nobody's arguing that you're mentally well, sir. If you're out here being a predator and you're after underage girls, nobody's gonna think that you're mentally well, sir. That's not up for debate. We know you're broken, but you broke them. That's the problem. You hurt them. Nobody, and that's what happens when you deal with narcissism. Narcissistic people will take a situation where they hurt someone else and they'll say, "Yeah, I hurt somebody else, but what about me?" Nobody cares. That's not what's up for question. That's not up for debate what happened to you. It's what you've done.
I know that you and Nikki watch a lot of reality TV shows. I know you guys have reacted to some stuff.
We do.
Including a certain 90 Day Fiancé and all stuff like that.
Oh, 90 Day Fiancé, yeah.
You got to tell me what some of the craziest things you've seen, like reality TV wise, including maybe stuff you've reacted
to. Something that we have reacted to, or something we haven't reacted to?
Go on, something you've reacted to. That's because we're obviously talking about your channel and all that as
well. I would say the craziest one, the reality thing that we've reacted to and put on the channel was like a Cheapskates episode where the redneck family was like burying food outside and reusing bath water and using newspaper to insulate their windows and wipe their butts with, and sleeping in the same room and I mean, they were literally living the way that a mole would live underground. It was insane. And I mean, it's just like sharing the bathwater kind of thing is like Oregon Trail, like survivalist, like people out on the frontier. Like, no, dude, there's no reason for all that. I mean, it's just really beyond gross. And there's no reason for it. And it, to me, is borderline child abuse when you're bringing a kid into this. And I don't even know if I would say borderline. I mean, that's kind of abusive, you know. I'm not for it. I'm not down with it. And it really grossed me out and made me angry, too, because there's just no point in doing all that. I mean, they weren't really saving any money. I don't know. It was gross. There's a lot of stuff out there on reality television that is mind blowing. Another thing that tripped me out was the button game, where people like hit next on people that they're potentially dating, and just like people want. I'm one of those kinds of people that like take it or leave it. I've never claimed to be perfect. I know that I'm not. But I'm going to tell you who I am and where I'm at today. I've been proven wrong. I've learned new information. I've had new experiences, which have changed my opinion and brought me to different places in my life. I've made mistakes in the past. I'm not going to sugarcoat, hide, or try to create a false narrative of myself for anybody. And in that, the button show, you get to see people say one thing and act completely different within seconds. You know, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm looking for this or that, and I consider myself a tolerant person." And then somebody with like a furry outfit will sit down and they'll be like, "Bump." It's like, you just said that you're open, that you're this, and you're not going to be judgmental. Bump. Or somebody that's overweight will sit down and they'll be like, "Bump." And that person will ask, "Why did you hit the button on them?" "Oh, just the vibe was off." Yeah. And it's like, dude, we know it's because that person was fat. Like, you're just trying to save face now. Why can't you say that this is why and that be okay? Like, does it make you shallow? Maybe, but that's who you are. And if you have a problem with that, go do some soul searching and figure that out. But if you're not hurting because that's who you are, just say that's who you are. I've got a lot more respect for an honest person that has opinions that I don't agree with than someone who has opinions that I don't agree with, pretends that they don't, and is just fake, while when they're alone and in their own heads, they're all about this thing that they pretend not to like. It's like, dude, just be real. Like, at least I would rather know who you are than have that creeping in the shadows. And maybe it'll make you more comfortable as a person if you just embrace that anyway. If you've got a problem with it, go deal with that.
I see that so much on reality TV shows, especially like the dating ones. I was funny enough, I was watching a similar sort of show to The Button and stuff, a show called First Dates and stuff like that, where it's just literally people on their first dates and all that. And you see so much of that, like where they'll be like on the date and stuff like that, they'll be portraying themselves as sort of being like, oh, I find him really interesting and all stuff like that. They're really cool.
Yeah.
And it gets to, do you want to go on a second date? And you're like, oh, it was more of a friendship thing. And then like, you know what's going on in their head. You know, it's just, they've sat down within 20 seconds. They've gone, oh, well, they're not a 10 out of 10. So I quit. And it's just like, just be honest.
But I'm on TV, so I gotta do this, you know, for the time being, you know.
But I gotta be honest though, with shows like that, and it's the main reason though why I love reality TV though. It is those crazy things that happen. Like some of the things I've seen, I'm just like.
That's one thing about reality TV that really sucks, because how real is it going to be when a camera is constantly in your face and you've got a producer and a sound guy with a boom mic and all this stuff? It changes the whole dynamic. You're never going to get a true relationship situation out of that, you know, unless it gets to the point where it's just like so normalized because it's constantly being filmed all the time. But yeah, a lot of shows, people act way differently than they would if they weren't like on camera and so.
Yeah, and like you see that and stuff like that, like so much, and you see people kind of like, I know it's not a lot of people's faults, but they do kind of fall for it. They sort of think, you know, like, no, but this is reality TV, it's genuinely real, and they'll be like, oh, but this one's fake, but this one's definitely real, and it's like, but it's not even about how it's set up, it's about they've got a camera in their face, so it might be a real situation, but they've got to put an impression up, because if they don't, they could get fired from work next week. You know what I mean? I think people forget that stuff.
And that's why when people act really crusty and they're awful and they start yelling and fighting and there's all this crazy stuff going on, I'm like, okay, this person really is a lunatic, because they're even doing this when the camera's there. So if the camera ain't there, she might not just be throwing the middle finger yelling. There may be a vase flying through the air or a chair. Like, she's probably really hell on wheels if she's not in front of the camera, you know?
But yeah, I'll say one last thing sort of to wrap up the reality sort of show argument.
Sure.
Like sort of discussion. I've got to mention one story. It's from it. I've been thinking about it in my head. I'm like, I've got to mention it, right? This is genuinely something that happened on this First Date show. It was, we get all the different versions from all different countries. So we get like the Australian version. I think the US version's been on over here as well and stuff.
Yeah.
No offense, US, but your version feels a little bit fake. I'm not going to say it, but it feels a bit faker than the others, to be honest. But so I was watching the Australian one. There was this sort of couple. They sort of went on a date. The girl is one of those. She already was saying like, "Oh, I'm very extra. I'm very out there." She brings a life-sized cutout of herself on the date, and it's all like very like pinked up and everything. And then the guy who's then going on this date, bear in mind it's all in like a fancy restaurant. So this isn't a part. This is not proper like 5-star. You know, like Michelin-star restaurant and stuff. She just comes in with that, and then this guy comes in. He's like, "Yeah, I'm like very quirky and out there and stuff." And they start talking, and you can already tell it's like sort of like awkward and stuff. They sat down, they start talking, and the guy goes, "I want to do that pulling off the tablecloth trick." So he stands up to go do the trick. He's like, "Go on, I can do it, watch." And he goes, 3, 2, 1, boom, crash, bang, 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 in the middle of this restaurant. Glass all falls on the floor. And he has this weird face of like, I'm guilty but not guilty, because that was kind of a bit funny. And like, bearing in mind, this like proper posh restaurant, everyone's done up nice. And I was like, oh my God. No word of a lie, I cannot find that clip. I've tried to look for it.
Wow.
On telly, I cannot find it, but I was like, why would you do that on a date on television as well? It's like, what are you doing?
Wow. Yeah, that's I don't know. Next time Nikki and I go out to a nice restaurant, I'm doing it. I'll film it and send it to you so you'll have a clip, you know. You can even re-upload it. Just be like Redneck does the dumbest thing possible or something, you know.
To kind of shift sort of tones a bit and stuff like that, to switch
Sure.
subjects and stuff like that. We didn't do your song recommendation and stuff. I did mine at the beginning.
Ah,
We need another song recommendation from yourself. So maybe I've said a song that really matters a lot to me. Maybe one of your favourite songs of all time. What song would you recommend out there?
one that I really like here recently that came out here recently was off of Blink 182's new album, One More Time. I don't know if you've checked it out. It's fantastic. Anthem number 3.
That's the opening for the
Anthem
album.
number 3. It is. It is. Let me share some lyrics real quick if you don't mind. Because I think this is one of their lyrical songs that, or one of their songs that from a lyrical perspective is amazing. And, you know, a lot of the Anthem songs, there's 3 of them obviously, are very uplifting, inspirational, and they've got a message of perseverance, which I think is really important. But there's a part where it goes, when your head is hanging too low, when your heart's about to explode, you can make it anywhere. Go. There's no fear. When you get here, give up that ghost. When your dreams, they seem like they're dead, like a pounding deep in your head. When your job has gone too deep, or when your job has gone too deep, if you're falling off of that list, when you're clenching both of your fists like you've aimed and then you just missed, let the record show that you're fixed. Don't you give up now, just get up and resist. It's all about not giving up on your dreams, realizing that there's going to be failure, but that doesn't mean complete and total abandon of your dreams. Like, you can still go through hard times and make it. That's part of the process. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that is like an excellent sort of recommendation and all that. And like, you know, I've said on this show before and stuff like that, like lyrics and songs and stuff like that, you know what I mean? They really are sort of important and stuff like that, and how they can impact people and sort of how they can personally affect people and stuff like that. It's a brilliant sort of thing to sort of see. And sadly and stuff where...
I'm going to put in a bonus.
Ooh.
I'm going to put in a bonus. All right. Idea, Smile. I don't know if you've ever heard of Idea.
Yeah, I haven't, no.
He's a white rapper from back in the day. And it's EYE, not idea, but EYE for idea. And Smile. And it's about kind of whenever you're suffering in life, somebody's always got it worse. And suffering is kind of part of the human condition, and it's something that connects you to life and everyone else in this world. And we're all in this together. So, smile.
Yeah, we got two now, bonus one. I'm always having to talk more and more music. I'm never going to complain about that.
Well, I really want you to check that out because he was like the Kurt Cobain of American rap music. Like before Juice WRLD and all this kind of emo trap stuff happened, he was doing that in like 2002.
And it's quite funny, that's the year I'm born as well, so maybe it could be
there you go.
Coincidence thing, you never know.
Maybe. I think that's when it was. Because he died, unfortunately, he died of, I think it was a heroin overdose. That was released in 2009, but he started gaining popularity around the time that you were born.
So I'll definitely have to check that out as well, and you guys have got to check that out as well and stuff too. Brilliant recommendations and stuff. And unfortunately, we've come to the final question. We've had a fantastic discussion. It's been a fantastic 20th episode of the show and stuff like that. We've had a brilliant time and stuff welcoming Hat Guy back on the show.
Absolutely.
And the final question and stuff. I didn't actually get to ask you this one because I changed it in the second episode what my final question was.
Oh, okay.
So this is the first time you've actually answered this, actually. If you were to give somebody a piece of advice, the most important piece of advice, what would you give? Let's say it was to me, for instance.
The perfect piece of advice to give. This is going to sound super cliche, but choose love every single time. Every time. With foolishly.
And I think that's like a brilliant sort of thing and stuff like that to like sort of consider and stuff. Like it doesn't matter if it's cliche, it's important. You know what I mean? I still sort of love that.
It's very important.
And stuff like that, and it really, I think in the modern world we need more of that, and it just sort of choosing love, not thinking about hate and what other people are doing, just focusing on sort of what's around you, what you like, what you love and stuff. And that's a brilliant sentiment and stuff. And unfortunately, yeah, that's the end of another fantastic episode and stuff like that. The 20th episode of the show. Here's to 20 more and stuff. In a year's time, you never know, this podcast might be,
let's make it 40.
Yeah, let's make it to 40. You never know. I might be a millionaire this time next year. You never know how this podcast might go.
Could be.
And stuff. I'll be sitting here on my wad of cash. I'll be the Scrooge McDuck of podcasting, I guess. I don't know.
You're a liar. That's a lie. I don't think a person like you could be Scrooge McDuck because you would be too generous.
Ah, that's so sweet. See, he's buying my lies, and I'm really happy about that. But anyway.
Oh yeah, you're British. Damn, there's no way you can be charitable. Oh.
Anyway, cutting the camera. But anyway, this has been another fantastic episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you guys next time. Peace out.